All of us have had our own journeys leading us here and have taken up different parts of the GMP. We're all making our mark today in different parts of the world. These catch up sessions bring a little part of that world before us juniors like me to fervently make notes, and I hope is a little bit of a homecoming for seniors who are already up and about in the global stints. This sit down lets us take a peek into each other's life and, of course, have some takeaways which can make the journey for those of us starting out right now a little bit easier. I am Zeel Raichura and I am going to be your host for the evening. A little bit about me. So, I am a part of the current GMP June cohort and I will be moving on to EBS Germany for my master's in finance. I am basically a qualified cost and management accountant along with a CFA level 1. After that, I joined Unilever, where I was managing the United Kingdom accounts payable portfolio for close to 3 years. And I think somewhere down the line during my work ex, I felt that it was the right time for me to take the next step, the MBA step, and therefore here I am. And enough about me. Without further ado, quickly coming to the man of the hour, Aksh Nijhara. Aksh is currently working as a risk analyst at a mid-senior level at UBS, one of the leading investment banks, and is based out of New York. He was a part of the GMP 2018 cohort, post which he moved on to the Robert H. Smith School of Business. In his undergrad, he completed his engineering in electronics and communication. And interestingly, he has also pursued a few stints as an actor and a model in his undergrad. So without further ado, presenting before you, Aksh Nijhara. Hi, Aksh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. And welcome to GMP because I think I am at a pedestal where I can welcome you because it's been almost 3.5 years that I've been associated to this beautiful group. And I'm currently working as a quantitative risk analyst at UBS. Like you said, it's one of the leading investment banks here in the world. So all in all, it's been a really good journey. There are a lot of skills that I got through GMP that have actually helped me and are even helping me right now while I'm working here at UBS. Something that really excited me in my career was that the 2008 financial crisis, probably that was one reason that I wanted to switch my fields as an engineer and use my coding skills as well as my finance skills. So I was looking for something that would actually help me with management and finance, a good blend which would teach me how to be presentable in a business setup and how to polish my financial skills. And in the industry these days you need R, Python and things like that. I was equipped with these skills at GMP, and it helped me transition to the partner school. Like you said, I'm from the Robert H. Smith School. So the partner school, most of the partner schools are quite similar. And so what matters initially is how well you're equipped when you enter the partner school, because you enter the partner school maybe a semester later from other students who've joined that same batch.
Yeah.
So yes, I was really well equipped when I entered my partner school, and I had a lot of other people coming with me, so I was at a really safe space because of GMP. Yeah.
Right. So, us quickly, before we get into your journey, it'll be really interesting to know it from the beginning. And we learned that you're an engineer by your undergraduation. And I think most of the MBA aspirants starting off are also engineers. So, from engineering to fintech, what exactly prompted you to make the shift? And what were your probably motivations?
All right, so funny story. I actually wanted to, pursue my master's degree in robotics and electronics, but there was this thing that always excited me after 2008 financial crisis, because my father used to talk about it a lot. I was always, attracted towards financial risk, and somewhere, I used to read these methodologies about being risk averse, risk neutral, risk level, and I wanted to, experiment with my career as well. So I was working as an analyst before I joined GMP, and I was coding and all, and there was something. There's a little part of me which would always read, Business Times and Financial Times. I had subscribed to Wall Street Journal, and I would always read them. But somewhere there was this part, because I was working part-time as a model and actor, so I was taking that risk there, right? I mean, maybe what if I make it big and I just don't need any ads, right? Because at the end of the day, what matters is you follow your heart. And there was this little part of me who always wanted to study further, because one good thing: the women in my family are more educated than the men in my family.
Okay.
So I come from that family of sisters and family of uh, a very close knit family, and they always wanted, at least with the day and age, at least you should have one master's degree. And
Right.
they said, do whatever you want to do, we will support you. But there's this small part, because nobody in my family comes from a fintech background, so
Right.
they did not have an idea. And there was this ongoing joke. There's an engineer, bank mein chala gaya and all. We've grown up like that, right? And um, I wanted to do something which would actually,
Yeah.
make me use my coding skills and, polish my finance skills as well. And
Right.
then my brother, one of my cousin brothers, who also is your alumni from your partner school at
Okay.
EBS, Akash, he was with GMP 2017, and he went to Germany, and he's like, okay, now you're looking for a switch in your career, and you always wanted to study. Why do you not try GMP? You have a really good background. You've got good credentials, and what matters is you've got a good personality, and you know how to present yourself. There are things that you think you are at a certain potential, but when you go there in GMP, they will actually make you realize that there are a lot of things that you have to learn, and it doesn't matter where you come from. And
Right.
at that point in time, I thought maybe might as well give it a try, because I always wanted to study up. And see, there are some financial obligations as well. So when you're applying it by yourself, there are certain scholarship issues, financial issues, and you're going alone to these places. And this GMP thing actually excited me a lot, that I'll get to stay with a couple of people before I moved to a different country. Financially, it was a better option.
Right.
Second, the SP brand would actually help me further in my life. That's what I thought initially, and I didn't know how much of it would be helping me in the future. And to be honest, it helped me a lot. But at that point in time, I was like, okay, I'll be associated with the brand, and I'll just go with the flow. I want to do something, and I had made my mind to join uh, something in marketing, but there was this little child who was attracted towards the financial crash.
Right. Right.
That reignited with the COVID thing that
Right.
was happening. I had a lot of options even then, and I decided to hop on into financial risk. And
Okay.
funnily enough, 2018 was the beginning year of the US cohort.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, that's where I started. That's where I come from.
Right. So, very interestingly, I'm getting a feel that you're a person who follows your heart. And I think somewhere your heart and mind was already set on finance, but you started off with an engineering background. So, that
Mhm.
transition would have really required you to acquire new skill sets which are finance specific. How, you went about, finding the starting point, because they're very different fields, and probably how GMP helped you towards it.
So there's a subject called MAFA. So when I joined in, there was a professor, Suresh Lalwani. So he teaches using different sweet ideologies, because when you get into a B school, a lot of times what happens is people use difficult terminologies, right? Because it's really difficult. Suppose if I try and explain you something right now, probably you coming from a finance background would understand. But like you said, there are a lot of people who are engineers. They don't know a lot of terminologies. I mean, they did not know what is debit, credit, or what simple things. They wouldn't know that, right?
Yeah.
I do understand the young generation is now getting financially sound given the situation, but you don't know a lot of things. So he would explain us, giving us sweet examples, like Mukesh Bhai for Mukesh Ambani, and he give us examples like shopkeeper, sweet shop, and he would explain us. The transition was something that happened at GMP for me, because coming from an engineering background, for me to understand the financial terms would have been difficult. But there were subjects like this subject MAFA, managerial accounting by Prem Chandrani sir. So all the professors actually GMP equipped me. This is something that I would forever be indebted to, because uh, they were not thinking that, because it's really difficult when you're at a pedestal. Suppose if 20 years later, teaching is a profession which is very difficult, we don't respect enough, because when you're at a pedestal, it's really difficult for you to stoop down to a level to make somebody understand who does not have any knowledge, because you have that knowledge, right? For
Right.
me to explain somebody something right now, even right now, would be really difficult. So I am always indebted to my GMP group of
Right.
people, Dipali ma'am, Sejal ma'am, and the professors, because they took us in as somebody who was at a really low level, and they needed to explain them. Because as engineers, you think that been at a pedestal that you've won the world and you know everything, you know coding and you know things like that. But there are a lot of things that you don't know. So for that transition, the subject that we had, the curriculum that GMP has, is something that made the transition is easy. We had like assignments day in and day out. So probably if somebody's teaching us, we're not going back home and revising it, because we a lot of people come from working backgrounds, right? So they're not into that head frame of studying
Correct.
every day. So we
True.
had the curriculum was like assignments, group assignments, personal assignments, and you know they were like small cheat sheets also that we used to make,
Right.
not for the exam purposes but for relearning what we've
Remembering
learned.
it.
But
Yeah.
there was this interactive process of learning. So
Hmm.
I never felt that I am somebody who comes from an engineering background. I started to feel I'm somebody who comes from a business background or a finance
Right.
background, to be honest. So you know, see, the transition happens in the head, and that transition is entirely dependent on the people that you are working with. A
Right.
good leader or a good professor or good surrounding is something that actually motivates you to go through that transition. I don't even as of now, I don't realize that I'm somebody who's an engineer who transitioned into finance. I actually think that because luckily enough that I'm using my both uh, sides of my personality now that I've inculcated. So I feel I'm an engineer at times. I feel like I'm a finance guy at times. So I think I can compete with somebody who comes from a BCom background as well, because I've been equipped in GMP enough that my transition has been so smooth that when I switched to my partner school, I was really afraid, because when you go to your partner school, then it's a different country, and the people who come from different backgrounds, and at the end of the day, you might feel like you don't know a lot of things, right? When you get in here, there are a lot of people there doing different things, coming from different backgrounds. The style of teaching is different. But, there's this old saying as it goes, even in my family, I wanted to go out to study from my bachelor's. And I actually told my father that I'm ready to take that loan, I'm ready to risk my life and all. And he always said that there's an old saying, कि bachelor's India में करो, master's बाहर जाके करना, right? And I realized that when I entered here, people here do things very slowly, and if you're equipped good enough. So I'd say that beginning of the course here in the partner school, I was scared because I thought I'm getting into quantitative finance. So the quantitative part is sorted because I'm an engineer, right?
Okay.
The finance part I was scared about because there are a lot of people in that master's degree who comes from a bachelor of finance, bachelor of business, bachelor of
Yeah.
multiple things, that they were really equipped because their
Yeah.
bachelor's degree here, the bachelor of arts here, they read everything, right?
Right.
In India, we are concentrated to one field in our bachelors. They're really open in their bachelors. So
Right.
when I got in here, I was really, really, really astonished to see that I was equipped more than them. Because for me, I started finance like 7 months back. These people have studied for 3 years. So
Right.
the quality of the program that we did in India is something that, like I told you, forever indebted to. Because when I started here, when I started my first subject, corporate finance, it was corporate finance. So it was core finance. Had it been somebody like something like quantitative analysis or financial programming, I would have been somebody who comes from a programming or analysis background. I would have transitioned really well. But my first core subject was core finance. So this was something, a territory that is something really, really, really open space for me, because I'm not a finance guy. I get into my partner school, the first course they want to do is no analysis, nothing, core finance. And I
Right.
was scared, to be honest. I was scared, but the first day I started, I was like, this is something I've already read. And I got a really good grade in that subject. Overall, I got a good grade. I graduated with a good grade. So yeah, GMP equipped me. Transition was really smooth.
Okay.
I'm indebted to the GMP program and the professors, because the way they have taught us had equipped us well enough to transition into our partner school.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great to know. So now that we've understood about your transition from engineer to finance, let's come to another transition, probably from you to from your Desi to Pardesi transition, probably. So
Mhm.
how was it, to enter a new country, and especially US? It's a brand
Mhm.
new world for most of us. So how do us as young students adapt into it? How are we perceived? If you could tell us more about that.
See, when I was leaving the country, I was somebody I was fortunate enough that my father used to work for a multinational firm, and actually, like any other person, I belong to a certain kind of family where I took my loan and went to the partner school. But I was fortunate enough that he used to get foreign trips, so I would travel to foreign countries as a child. So I was fortunate, but there were people around me who were not that fortunate. But that is something that you go out to different countries as a tourist, right? You have your guardian around you, and you go there, and you come back in like 5 days, 7 days, and that's about it. Transitioning to living in a foreign country is something that scares a lot of people. I
Right.
was up for the challenge. One thing that helped me was there were people around me because those 6 7 months that we were in GMP was something I would describe as a life changing experience because it has given me a couple of people in my life who some of them are in Europe right now and some of them were here with me. As of now, they are situated in different cities with different jobs, but they were with me until the pandemic hit. During the pandemic as well, to be honest. So this is something that helped me, initially rub off the fear of moving to a different place because I had people. Because GMP was so inclusive that you talk to everyone every day, right? There's a subject that would make suppose you were my batchmate, you'd be my group mate in one of the subjects and there'll be somebody else a group mate in some of the other subjects. So it was really inclusive, you connected to everyone. So there was this the fear of going out to a place to an unknown was subjugated to a really low level because you had people that going with you first. Secondly, when you enter a new place, it's really difficult because suddenly, because in India, we live with our families, we did not come from a culture where we move out when it's 16, 17, or 18, like people in different
Right.
countries do. So suddenly difficult. And fortunately enough, I've always been in a very leadership role, even at GMP. So for me, the transition was okay. But suddenly it was like I was being a guardian here, right? So it
Okay.
was difficult for me. So I had to make ends meet. I could tell you the first-hand experiences that I had. And probably you have to the things that when you go out you have to be mellow down. There are experiences that people look at you at a different way because you have a different accent. At the end of the day, you do not speak their accent, you speak their language, and sometimes it's really difficult for them to understand. The first day we were trying to communicate a very simple thing and they didn't understand. So you're feeling jittery, you were scared. uh, but people in the partner school also welcomed us with open hands. They showed us around, and since we were a group together, so gelling into a new environment was really exciting. Initially, we'd go out because when you move out to a country for the first 15 days, you do not have anything. It's just that you have to get your bed sorted, you have to get your accommodation sorted, and you have to get other things sorted. So while moving, also, especially into a country like US, you have to do something for your living, right? I mean, you ought to have a part-time job. So there are things like graduate assistantship, research assistantship, for which our GMP program also helped because we were the first batch, and we'd ask them questions like what do we do, how do we work there, because in US there's a thing that the day you enter, up until the first semester, you cannot work outside the university. You have
Okay.
to be associated as a part-time worker in the university, period. You cannot go out and work as a cashier or as a mechanic or whatever outside the school. So you had to transition and get to, and for us Indians there's a roadblock, right? We come from a family where we have never worked as a person who works at a reception or cashier. And people here, they work
Right.
part time, they're okay.
Right.
They come from big families as well, and they do not. So that transition also takes time because there are a lot of people who come into the university and they have to work in the university cafeteria, university book center. You have to make ends meet, right? You have to learn how to live. You have to learn how to cook. But all in all, it is a really exciting experience, right? You are scared for the first 2 3 days. After
Yeah.
2 3 days, you feel like the king of the world, right? You're
Yeah.
managing everything. Suddenly, you are the mom and dad of your life. So that's what
Yeah.
happens. So even when you
In
go
your
out,
workplace
that's
as well,
bound to
I think.
happen. Yeah, and you have people around. Funny enough, I got sick during pandemic, and I had people from GMP around. There are not a lot of people you can count on because the world is a very competitive place. But
That's true.
GMP, apart from grooming us, gives us friendships, long time friendships, or like lifetime friendships. So for me, I was really ill during the pandemic, and my GMP guys, they took care of me because I take took care of them for like almost 2 years during the partner school stint, because they assigned me as a guardian here that you'd go and talk to everyone. But when I got ill, I was scared that nobody would take a stand for me. But these lifelong friendships that I had in GMP, apart from the curriculum or whatever, actually helped me transition really beautifully in a different country. And now I feel like that I'm somewhat 50% part of this country. I don't want to be more than that, because at the end of the day, I am Desi at heart and but Desi by job. And that's what my Insta ID also says. So yeah.
All right. So, actually, yes. So, you mentioned about having a support system around you constantly in the form of JMP. And another thing that I've noticed while researching about you is that you passed out bang in the middle of the pandemic when COVID started, and I think the US job markets were also at an all-time low that time. So, it must have been a very challenging time getting out at that point. I'm sure with a lot of debt. So, yeah, please tell us more about that. How was the phase for you?
So the interesting story is that I was about to graduate in December 2019. All the GMP people, we were supposed to graduate in 2019 December, right? But there were things like, because because we were the first batch. Now there are a lot of people who come to US. They talk to us through LinkedIn. We help them. We help them with the GATA, RAs, and these things. So at that time, we had a word with Dipali ma'am, Devasi sir, and back home with the management back home, and we decided that we will extend our course because we did not have had a really decorated US resume, so to say. We were doing GAs or RAs, like research assistantships, but we wanted to do some internship, some sort of an externship. Uh, so we extended our course, not knowing that we are entering in a really difficult phase of pandemic at
Right.
that point of time. So we did not know that. So that extension, all in all, helped us really, really well. All of us, two of my friends also got externships with Fannie Mae. I got an externship with Fannie Mae. One of them got with Freddie Mac. The other got with Credit Suisse. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are like government-sponsored entities. These are the banks that actually helped the U.S. government to get out of recession in 2008. So we were representing our business school there. So we thought it was a really good opportunity, and let's just extend, because we got selected in November to represent our university there in 2020 March up until May. So it was something like sort of an internship that would be really good for our resumes. Little did we know March will happen, pandemic will happen, everything will change in one night when the lockdown was announced, even here. And we were scared because in the US what happens is you've got 90 days. Right after I graduate, I have to apply for an employment authorization document. Uh, the moment you get your EAD, you have first 90 days to either bag an internship or a full-time job in order to stay in the country, or your visa goes null and void. So we
Okay.
were scared, right? And people had already told us that this is a country where, you have to transition into a different visa class, H1B visa class, for you to continue working. So it's going to be difficult for you to find sponsors generally. Like, I'm an Indian. If no matter how decorated my resume is, right? When I go out and interview, they'd be like, okay, do you want us to sponsor a visa? Because it charges like what, $10,000 to $15,000 for one student, for them to sponsor that student. They have to pay that $15,000, and they'll, if they have an American option, they'll take an American option, right? And suddenly the pandemic hits, and job market is sinking down. The four major economies currently in the world: London, Germany, New York, and Bombay. Everybody was scared of what is happening to the economy. All the financial guys were scared what is happening to the economy. And we, being at a place where we want to join these banks or these investment firms, suddenly these people are downsizing. There were only the tech companies
Yeah.
I started eyeing for the tech companies. I actually closed my eyes and was like, okay, I want to do something in the financial risk space. I cannot do it. And that is something that would actually hurt me. But the moment I started, actually I had started finding a job 8 months prior to graduating, right? So I was not getting anything concrete. Uh, I don't know what the reason was. Maybe because you come from a different background, and in this country, they need you to you to be somebody that they do not have to take care about the visa and these things. And I was interviewing for one position at a firm, a decorated firm, and I had gotten that interview, and I was really happy. And I was interviewing, and almost at the last one, they're like, "We're really sorry, we had to lay off the entire team because of the pandemic,"
Right. Right.
and that scared me. And after that, I applied for, I'd not say the number, but in like 1,500 jobs, so to say, and I was not getting anything concrete. So the people around me as well not getting anything concrete. So there are people who are better than you, better equipped than you, even when you see them not getting it, and the people who are under-equipped. And since you live in a family lifestyle here with your GNP guys, you're scared for them, you're scared for yourself, and it's a very depressing phase, right? Finding a job is not easy, right? Who said it's, and when you're going, who said it's going to be easy? Nobody said that. But
Right.
pandemic raged out that feeling. We started to feel anxious all the time. Nobody was cracking anything, and we always thought that we were somebody who would crack at least one interview. Right now, if you come to the US, it's a huge job market. The people switching, I know a lot of people as of now who left their jobs yesterday and have joined a new job today. One thing that I did probably would help everyone going forward is I maintain an Excel file. And suddenly I cracked an interview. People around me started cracking an interview. The market started to open a little bit. And we had decided that we'll not negotiate. We just have to start our careers. I was fortunate enough that I got a decent compensation because I was given a mid-senior role. So I was happy. Probably as of now, if I think more the merrier, right? More the money, more happy you are. But that does not drive your happiness. That's something that you learn when you're going through a very struggling phase. What drives your
Right.
happiness is that you're putting in that effort and you want to, reap the benefits out of it.
True.
And I was waiting for it, and I cracked it. And yes, I had a set list of firms, and I got into one. I'm really happy about it, and probably one should actually go through this experience at least once in their lives. You ought to learn a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely, actually, I agree. 2020 was not a year for fresh graduates at all. So, but how are things looking right now in the States? So probably if the batch were to come this year or the batch that has reached US, day before, what do you think the prospects look like for them? And are the job markets more open?
See, as much as I want to say that the job market is open, things for internationals are different. But yeah, the job market is open. A lot of people around me are getting jobs, so the job market is open. Nobody wants to accept their mistakes initially. And because we were the first batch, we did make a few mistakes, which I openly accept. And the people from previous batches that have come after us, right, the 2019 batch, 2020 batch, and probably now the 2021 batch. So somebody who's wanted to find a job, they've reached out to me probably a semester before, and always tell them to go for an internship. There's a thing called as working part time through the internship. We call it as co-op. So it's like a co-op training, which is like an optional practice training, which is a visa after graduating, and there's like a cumulative practice training (CPT), which is while you're studying and you're working in a firm. So you become a part-time student and you start working as a part-time intern as well. So
Okay.
I would have loved to do that. I did not know anything about it. People around me, my people that I know here, apart from GMP, come from a very software sort of background, right? And software background is easy to crack here in the US, and it is established. So you're coming into a
Right.
fintech world and you do not know that. So I've always guided them to find an internship for the entire last semester. Well, that's the best bet that you get converted into full time and you don't have to go through this hassle. And I have seen after that, I have seen a couple of people, not from GMP and from GMP, both, that have actually taken that advice, and they've put in their hard work. They joined certain internships in the last semester. They, did their credits in the first 2 semesters. In the last semester, they kept their credits low and they joined these part-time internships, and they got full time in no time. I mean, they got their EAD, and the moment they got their EAD, they got full time in that role, and that also establishes the trust in the firm to apply for your H1B in March next year. So H1B is applied in March every year for a candidate, and for them, since they're working as an intern and then the transition to full time, it established a really good trust for these people. And yeah, a lot of them actually they applied for their H1Bs this year. Yeah. So it is really important for one to learn from the mistakes or tell the other batch that is coming. So the market looks really promising as of today, as of yesterday. Will not even believe when I say that to you. I was sitting idle one day and I was looking for something that, because some point of time you want to grow in your career, right? So I'm looking to switch maybe in 6 months or 1 year time. So it's like, let me just try whether I'm marketable enough or not. And that is a constant fear as an international, whether you're marketable enough or not, whether you're losing the skills. So I applied in like 3 or 4 companies, and I'm coming from I have a smaller sample size of converting these, applying for these jobs, getting converted into interviews, getting converted into a full-time employee. So for me, I was like, okay, let me apply 3, 4 jobs and see if my resume gets picked up. Is it decorated enough now? The market looks good. It is, the international student bias is really low. You'll be amazed to know I got interview calls from all the 4 jobs that I applied.
Wow.
And now, unfortunately, I cannot interview for them because I'm really happy in my first job and I want to, work at least 6 to 7 months more before I decide to switch or take a leap in my career. And because the market is really good. I mean, if somebody who is a fresher who's coming up, I would recommend them to actually, take some internships, make their resume marketable, even if it is like doing graduate assistantship or research assistantship under a professor in the university, in the partner school. Your resume is your best bet. And your resume is basically which you can market only through learning through things like GMP curriculum and the partner school curriculum, because the technical terms and the nuances of the job market is something which is really close to the acads. Probably when I work, I sometimes when a lot of people say that, right? कि ये हमने maths पढ़ा है, अब ये कहाँ काम आ रहा? मतलब ऐसा होता है, but it is not true when you're doing masters, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing your master's degree, there are a lot of things that I learned in GMP that I use as of today. A lot of things that I learned in partner school, I use them as of today. So these things that you learn would actually transpire to your resume, right? So you have to market your resume and the skills. There's a skills section in your resume. Here, the resumes are made in a different manner. There's a skills section. You'll not believe if you see my resume and see my skills section, that was like 40% more than the Americans who were applying the jobs. You were not getting the job interview. But yeah, but our skill set was even more than them, because there are a lot of skills that we learned at GMP, a lot of skills that we learned at partner school, and these skills at the end of the day makes you well prepared to enter the unknown and the job market, so to say, and they equip you to progress in your career as well. So yeah, that's helped me, to be honest. The market is good now. You can switch, you can apply for a new job, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's good to know. So, firstly, Ash, congratulations about your 4-on-4 conversion. That feels good to hear for sure. So, since we touched upon the topic of internships, and I am a little bit aware of how the US schools are very focused on the essays or the SOPs that we write, while applying, and also internships. So, what do you recommend the candidates who are starting off today in the few 6 months or a year that they have? How can they improve their profile so that it's a much better fit for the US schools or the internship organizations?
So to be honest, like I told you, for the first 6 months, you cannot intern here. By the rule of thumb in US, you are a non-immigrant. You're not even a legal immigrant when you enter here. So rule of thumb is do not apply for any internships for the first 6 months outside your course, right? Before that, one thing you can do is get in touch with GMP, get in touch with professors that you would be working with in the university and try and get a research assistantship or a graduate research assistantship or a teaching assistantship. The first 6 months, even that, right? So if you look at my first resume here, because I want to add like a relevant experience, I've added my research assistantship as a position in under work experience. I do have almost 2.5, 3 years of experience before, migrating to a different country altogether. And I was fortunate enough to, be retained by my current company, not my ex company in India, and work as a consultant. So I was, anyways, brushing up my skills on the side. But having said that, these big brands, when you come here, and then these big brands, they're looking for OPT, CPT students. They're anyways looking for these interns, and they have open internships. You have to go online, apply for these internships, and the moment you enter that, you have to be open to your line manager that you want to convert this internship into a co-op, which is like intern through the semester. And when you're being that open about these things, when you're available with a certain firm for a longer time, these people would anyways want to retain you. So it's a really good process that you come here, start with an RA or a GA. Probably that is something that you learn how to work in a country apart from yours. Things are different. You're working under a professor here. Having said that, these people, the professors here also, like in India in these schools, the professors come from both acads and professional work experience. They always have that. If somebody's worked for 7 years, somebody's worked for 20 years in professional lifestyle. So working under them also helps you learn how the work culture is. So you get prepared with that. So when you're coming here, you should apply, and you make your ends meet. Having said that, because you get paid for that, right? Having said that, while you're doing that, you have to just be open. After the 6 months, you have to be open for applying for the internships. And when you apply for those internships, you might convert one, and the process goes like that. You have to think of, so initially, it seems all good. You're partying in the first 3 months, and you have a GA or a TA, you're getting that money, you're spending that money, you can make your ends meet and everything. But you have to start thinking after the first 3 months, after that party mode is out, after that studying mode is out, you have to think about your career and you have to apply for these internships. And the moment you get one, your career seems to uh, fly in the direction you want. So you have to think when you come here in the first semester only, you might get the taste of all side of things. In my case, I got taste of risk management, I got taste of quantitative analyst, I got taste of core finance, investment banking, and everything like that. Investment banking was tough in our time to crack because of pandemic, and investment bankers are generally American as a rule of thumb. So I wanted to be in the quantitative and risk space, and that externship, that one extension of the semester got me an externship with Fannie Mae, which is one of the biggest credit risk agencies in the US, because it's a government agency. So I work for US government. So for me, that is all in all a very big thing. And that internship in my resume, everyone in my job interview after that asked about those 3 months. They did not care about what 3 year experience I get on the table. They cared about what those 3 months I get. And they discussed about it all the time. They took my technicals, they took my case study tests, and they took all sort of interviews. But when it came to the work ex, they would respect my work experience. Having said that, they would actually ask about the projects that I did here in the country. Internships actually add value to your resume. No matter if there are 2 months, it's a 2 month internship or it's a 6 month co-op, it hardly matters. They add a value to your resume, and it makes marketable to a point that you cannot even think. Even now when I told you that there were like 4 interviews that I bagged, even they were interested in knowing my current job and that previous internship of mine.
Right. Okay.
That internship has just 4 pointers in my resume. My previous job has like 6, 7 pointers. Far decorated resume when it comes to that space of 3 year experience, but they did not care. So for them, those 3 years experiences, they do not care about that. For them, I am a fresher. Yes, they respected that. My current firm respected that and gave me a mid-senior role. But when I went to the job market, they just cared about what you did in this country. So be fresher, no fresher, hardly matters. Just back an internship here, keep on applying, go through the interviews, get rejected. Very important to get rejected from multiple firms to, learn what's wrong with you and what is something that you want. And probably when you're applying, the fun of applying is really good. People around you are really good, right? Generally, they would support you. Other people would try to, you know, pull you down, but people from GMP would support you, because even if they're applying to the same job, they would not hide a lot of stuff with you, because you come to this foreign country as a family. So you get that constant source of inspiration around you, and that's about it.
That's nice. So, a couple of takeaways that I'm getting is that do not take the rejections personally. I think just take feedback, keep working on it, and you can make your profile better. And another one is that while in US, your work ex in US really counts. So, getting an internship should be a priority for all of us who are going there. So also, I was wondering how supportive is the college, the US college and the US seniors in terms of helping us network or pointing us in the right direction?
So what happens at the end of the day, these countries are basically quite different than ours. Like even you come from a place where you have not graduated in the pandemic. A lot of people, a lot of GMP people would have graduated in the pandemic, so they've not had the taste of companies coming to their campuses and going through that campus drive. Here things are different. You just do not have these things called as what do you call them? Campus drives, companies visiting your campus. In India, campus placements. Yeah, really sorry. So I've just forgotten the term. See how funny it is that I've been a part of placements through my engineering, and I've forgotten the term, because these countries, they do not offer you any placement whatsoever. Any college, be it be Harvard, be it be London School of Business, be it be any college in any foreign country, they do not give you any sort of campus placements, right? And what matters at the end of the day is how you are presenting yourself, because you have to apply online. There are career fairs, right? So you have to take a printout of your resumes, and the career fairs happens every 2 months. A career fair is happening around you. Go there, you have your resume printed out, you just give it to the company official. If they like it, they'll call you. But there's nothing called as campus placements. So how these people help? They help you prepare through these things. They've got a training and placement officer here. Like in India, you've got career coaches. They will help you prepare well enough for these things. They'll help. They'll make your resume presentable. They'll help you prepare for the interviews. That's the most they can help you with. They'll not call some company like in India. Your college would have Google placing students. Here, Google will not care about which college you're coming from. They do not care. They're like, just apply online. If your resume is good, if you have some sort of a referral, that's a different thing. Just apply online. That's it. Or go to a career fair and give it to the company representative. And if they like it, they might call you in a week. And it has happened with me. I haven't cracked those interviews. I accept that. There's some interviews they thought that I was a green card holder. And because there are a lot of people who are green card holders, so they thought I was a green card holder, they called me and like, we really like your profile and all. And do you want to interview with us? Like, I was like, yes, but I might need H1B sponsorship. I said outright no. So you have to go through these career fairs, and when you come here, you stay updated with these things, anyways, because your college and your career coaches, they make sure that you stay updated. You attend these career workshops, you attend these career fairs, and they, if you are willing enough, they'll take care of your resume as well. I mean, I changed my resume like 50 times, changing things here and there throughout the year. I was not getting anything. I mean, little did I know there was the market was fluctuating and they did not want an international. But as of today, I'm really thankful to these people, my career coaches, that they've helped me, polish my resume, because there are things called as ATS, which is like an automated selection system of the resume. So your resume is applied through an online portal. It will get selected through a software, then go to the HR. And the moment it reaches to HR, and HR sees everything. So these people can help you prepare for an interview, but they will not get you an interview like you get in India, like campus placement. So that's how the workflow or like the placement flow is. here
Okay.
in these countries,
Okay.
in each country actually, each partner school.
Right. But I think also since that is the way of the land, that there is no intermediary called a campus placement, the companies might be more responsive to direct applications as well, like through online portals or like you mentioned, job fairs and things like that. Or does it take like an extremely long time?
So let me tell you a funny story. The company that I'm working for right now, UBS, it took me 2 months to join this company. I started July end and I joined in September. See, almost 2 months. So I was getting anxious that these people. First of all, I applied for a certain job. I did not get an interview. They gave me a call 15 days after that we've gotten a candidate. I was like, why are you calling me? I mean, you can outrightly reject me. Right, they send you a rejection email, plain and simple. Sometimes they do not even care that your application was rejected. Sorry. Sometimes they're more responsive. They do send this email out that we found the right candidate for a specific role and your candidature ends here or whatever. You can apply for different jobs and blah 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 whatever. So they called me and they're like, we are looking for you. We had a resume in the top 2 resumes here for this position, but we think you are. And it was an entry level role. So they thought I was a better fit for a mid senior role. I mean, somebody with a 3 to 5 year experience. And I was like, okay, I'll interview for that. I interviewed for that. After the HR round, they took 10 to 15 days to reach out for the technical round. After the technical rounds happened. And suddenly, no decision for 20 days. Just the state of mind you're in, because the pandemic is raging. You do not have another interview. Suddenly, I got another interview, and that company was really responsive and they wanted me to answer. And this company, which, because as a finance guy, I would want to be in the top company to start my career. It hardly matters. I have realized that it hardly matters. You can go in a startup and you can start a career. It's just about learning and growing in career. So I was getting anxious, but for 20 days they did not even respond whether they liked me. Okay, but I emailed them, do you have any feedback if things went wrong? They did not reply to the email for 7 days, and suddenly they're like, congratulations, we selected you and whatnot. So it depends from company to company. Generally, your candidature, they would reject it or accept it, based out on your profile. And sometimes they do not even bother. They do not. I'm getting rejection emails from the jobs that I applied last year. Funnily enough, I wouldn't have even wanted to go in these companies in the first place, but the times were so depressing. Being an international, locked in a country, you cannot go home, and you're not getting a job because you're an international, right? And now things are like, you're an international, oh wow, welcome. So things are really good now, but things were really bad back then. So some companies are responsive, companies are not responsive, but yeah, they do respect your candidature and they would actually reach back and tell you that, sorry, we have not selected you, you're not the right fit. Do not take rejections personally. I have 1,000 mails that I can share with this group. As of now, if I open my Gmail account, I have 1,000 rejections. They did not even see my face. They did not even hear my voice. They did not even look at my resume in the first place. So you will get rejections here and there, but that's a part of the process. That's a part of growing. There's one job, right? At the end of the day, you have to crack that one job. And your life is sorted for at least next 2-3 years if the boss is good.
Right. And also, I think at the risk of becoming a little political, from the time you graduated to today, US has seen a change of leadership from Trump to Biden. So, do you think that has also made the immigration process and Indians getting in and staying back easier? The job market's becoming more probably foreign friendly.
So I'll tell you two really important points. See, by the time you graduate, you're at an age that you would want to get into a serious relationship and get married.
Okay.
For me, I am at that stage that I would want to be with somebody for 2 years and then settle down. Right? Past administration, with that respect, the last Republican administration, they did not want spouses to work. So if I get an H-1B work visa, my spouse would get an H-4 visa and she can work. At a certain age, you do not want to study, right? It's just that you want to be with that person and you want to work and that help that person. It's an equal world, right? Similarly for the girl as well. If there's a guy coming to this country and switching to this country, and they wouldn't want to study altogether once again. Suppose if they have their master's degree, right? So with the switch of administration one, he has opened that H-4 visa. So if in the near future, in 2 years or 3 years time, I get married and I want my partner to come here, she can work and he or she can work. He in the cases of, okay, that's an open argument, so let's not go there. So in my case, the girl can work if she wants to. Second, really big shift was that the past administration was actually changing the eligibility criteria of the H-1B visa. They're like, okay, so I am in a niche skill. One beautiful thing about GMP is that we have associated with all the colleges in the analytical framework here in the US. So we actually come under the niche skill programs.
I think from 2019 to 2021, the administration has changed, and the pandemic is also, thankfully improving. So I think those are two good news for the cohort coming in right now. And I think it should be much easier than it was for you. And of course, they will have there's a batch of seniors as well, which you did not have the advantage of. So yeah, sounds all good things. Also, since we're discussing technicalities, what is the visa process like to apply for US, especially since we know that the interview process is very stringent?
So generally what happens is our partner schools are really good. I'm very thankful to the GMP program that they actually partnered with good schools, because while I was interviewing for my visa, I don't know, for some reason it was a really long interview. For people, they were like 2 minutes interview. For me, it was like a 5-minute interview, and they started asking me different Bollywood questions as well for some weird reason. I don't know, I gave them out that vibe, but I was scared. What if they rejected? Because somebody who is ahead of me in the line, their visa got rejected. They're from some state university, which is a really small university. So our association with the universities that GMP is associated with in these countries, in all the countries, are really, really renowned schools. So when you get that offer letter or the admission letter, so to say, from these universities, and you go for your visa process, they look at your university and they be like, okay, it's a good university, and they know it. So probably they'll ask you a couple of questions, and they'll ask you, oh, what are you going, why are you going there, what does your parent do, how you're sponsoring your studies, are you taking a loan and all and everything. They would just see whether are you somebody who can sponsor their studies even through a loan. They do not care about it, whether you can retain yourself or whether or not you're going to a good school. So we are fortunate that our program is associated with some good schools. The interview process, yes, at times it can be grilling because one, you do not understand their accent. Really bad thing is that we do not understand their accent. So they asked me a couple of questions I did not understand. Like, I'm sorry. And, started asking me different questions. They would ask for they can even ask for your GRE GMAT score. If you've applied, when you're applying, they would know that in your in your profile of the visa, you have put these scores. And for me, my friends, they did not ask anything. They asked for my GMAT score. They asked, okay, you've given both GRE and GMAT, you've got good score. Just show me your GRE GMAT score. So they would actually try and trouble you, saying different things. Show me this, show me that. And rule of thumb, if somebody is going to US in the future, I would give them my list of how to, put the documents in a list, because when they ask you for these documents, you have to present them because they will see whether you have that composure or not. So visa process is just about you being composed during that interview, and that's it. You get it? And every time you enter this country, every time, because I've been to Europe through US multiple times, I've been to India multiple times since the time I've been here. Every time you enter, the process is the same. They'll ask you a question. What do you do? What school? Give me your I-20. Where do you work? Give me your visa.
Okay, so I think that was very helpful, Laksh. Thank you. And I think overall we've had like a nice, wholesome coverage of your journey from GMP into US internships and your job process as well. So this brings us to almost the end of the interview. Thanks a lot, Laksh, for sparing us time on the Saturday morning. Really grateful. And now I want to open the floor up for questions if the participants have any, so that you can either put it in the chat box or unmute yourself.
Yeah, sure.
I think yes, please unmute yourselves and you can speak up. That will be good. Okay, people come up with the questions. I can just tell you how we kind of help out with people with visa process. So we've had a few people whose visa got rejected, in the first attempt, and second attempt it was done. So we actually make it a point, anybody who's going through GMP, we make them interact with the people whose visas got rejected. So they exactly know what went wrong and how upset. It's all about your composure, how composed you are when they're asking you questions, and how you handle the situation. So of course, your seniors give you the guidance as to what all documents have to be kept ready. The school guides you, but ultimately, when you're there for the interview, it's you and the interviewer, right? So us waqt, just take a deep breath and take a second and answer. That's okay. So we kind of do these things to help the people out. We've had some questions on the eligibility criteria and all that. So you need to be a graduate. You can have a CAT, XAT, GMAT, or GRE scores. And apart from that, freshers who are just graduating in around November, December can apply for the January batch. People who graduate in May can apply for the June batch. If you don't have any scores right now, you can always apply as a deferred candidate and give us your valid scores later. Divya has posted the link for the brochure and as well as the form. If you have any queries, Divya and my number are mentioned on the website. Please call us up. And Charu and Khushi had asked for the fee table and all that. I have mailed you that. So that's over from me, over and out. Floor is open to you for the questions.
Okay, so if you're asking, if you want to go to the US and if you're asking the MAT scores are eligible or not, see, at the end of the day, maybe for GMP or MAT scores might be eligible, I don't know. But if you want to go to US or some other country, the eligibility criteria is different. And we generally would want GRE GMAT here in the US. And it's okay, you can apply as a deferred candidate. I had people in my times as well were people who did not give that because their profile was good and they cracked the interview, they got into GMP and they were studying and they were preparing for their GRE and GMAT and they gave that, they got their scores and so even to get scholarships at times, you need that GRE GMAT and it's not that difficult to be honest. It's not that difficult if you're good enough to crack GMP, probably your profile is good enough. You are somebody who can, present themselves. So it's not a difficult thing, GRE or GMAT. You just have to clear that. You might get a scholarship because of that. I got 70% scholarship because of that. So I'm happy. I did not pay the amount. I was financially happy because of GMP, financially happy because of my test scores. And I'm financially happy now because I can pay off my loan.
I can just add on to this. So the partner school will also be willing to interview you without the GMAT or GRE scores right now. That's not an issue at all. Once you clear the interview, we can inform you whether you've cleared the interview or not. And we can give you a conditional offer letter, which says that once you meet the eligibility criteria, you give us a valid GMAT or GRE score, you'll be given the proper offer letter. And also, partner schools do take you through the CAT and XAT score, but over the years, I've come to know that, at times if you're trying to apply to the big 5 kind of companies, your GMAT or GRE score does matter. So if you really aspire to reach there, please work a little hard. Agar abhi 600 is the target, increase it to around 720, 740. And it will help you in your job profile later, job hunting and conversions as well.
Somebody is asking for the GMAT thing there. I mean, I don't know. So I don't know about the CAT, how it works with GMP admissions. Probably if you want to get admitted in the June batch or the July batch, whatever the batch is, they would obviously look for a 2020 score, not the 2021. But if you're trying interviewing it's just your profile that matters. But in the foreign university, if you clear that conditional offer, I mean, if you get that offer, they see for you to get a scholarship. I know that for certain because I know of somebody who had a really good profile. He wanted to save money. I explained him multiple times, just go for GRE GMAT, just go for it. You'll get that scholarship. That person has a job, has 20 times bigger loan that I have. Not 20, that's huge, obviously, but he has like 4 times bigger loan that I have. I have covered my loan and he is still crying to cover his loan just because he did not want to spend that extra 10, 12,000 bucks and not give that GRE GMAT. It's just that you can get a deferred admission, you can get a conditional offer letter from your partner school and then give that GMAT as an eligibility criteria because they have to show that for scholarship purposes also to the USCIS, which is the United States Customs and Immigration System Department. That this person has cleared our eligibility of our country, and we are willing to offer that person a scholarship or a GA, RA, or TA, and through that the scholarship.
Okay, so somebody had asked about the CAT 20 and 21 question. So yes, we can accept you with the CAT 21 scores also for the January intake, but the time duration is really short. Your exam happens in November. The results are out, I think, first week of January, and we start the course from, yeah, I think first week, right? The course begins from around second or third week of January. So in case you're working and you need to quit your job, if you have to serve a notice period, it gets a bit too close. So we, with my past experience, I can say that people who want to join GMP and they don't have a score right now, they've written GMAT or GRE and joined. Because CAT, we had people who joined through CAT, but it's like really last minute. So you'll have to, you know, as soon as your results are out, you'll have to work on your loan and resignation and all that. So in case you still need any more information, please call me up. I've shared my number on the chat, and I'll be able to help you. So there's a question about IELTS scores. So you can, again, the same way as for GMAT and GRE, you can appear for the interview now. For GMP, depends on which school. If you're going to Stevens, you don't require it. For Brandeis, IELTS is not required. If you're going to Robert H. Smith School or you're going to USC Marshall, you'll require these two IELTS or a TOEFL, and you can always submit it after your interview is done with GMP. And once the partner school is saying, if you don't want to invest on it right now, clear your partner school interview, but they'll only send you the offer letter once you've submitted your scores, which are whatever the band is. Please go through the brochure, we've mentioned it there. So only once that eligibility criteria is met, then the offer letter would come through. I think that's about it. More or less, did I miss out on any questions, Zee?
No, ma'am, this was all.
Thank you.
Yes, there is a question about the scholarship criteria.
So scholarship, only Brandeis is the school which gives up to 100% scholarship. So there, while you are being interviewed, you'll also be interviewed for the scholarship. And when the offer letter comes or when GMP team contacts you to let you know your results, we'll be able to tell you what kind of scholarship you've got. So in the past, with my experience, I can tell you that the students who join GMP through Brandeis through GMP have kind of joined. The people who've got around 60 to 65% scholarship and above are the ones who've joined. And we've had 100% scholarship winners till now. And the school is also willing to, like, you know, reconsider once you're there and you perform well, you can again apply for some scholarships there. And how Aks had mentioned, you can always work while you're on campus. It'll depend. If you're working like in a cafeteria, of course, you'll be paid less compared to if you're working as the TA with the professors. And once, you know, in around October, we'll again have a session with the partner schools as well. You can get many more doubts cleared there. For other schools, you kind of get a flat flat discount on the fee, should I call it, or should I call it a scholarship? So where if you check the fee which is mentioned on our brochure and if you check their website, there'll be quite a bit of difference. So that's because they consider the 6 months that you're studying here are considered as a semester. So you get a waiver for those subjects as well as you get an additional discount because of the scholarship. And all the schools everywhere, you are most welcome to work. For a TA or a RA, it will take you first 6 months. You go there, settle in, perform well in your studies. That's when you can get a TA kind of a job. But for working in the library or the admissions office or alumni office, of course, there are lots of openings. You can apply and work around 20 hours a week. And for stay and all that, of course, we've got people going into these places, schools from 2018. They can always help you find reasonable places to stay, reasonable places to shop from. And so we've had times, where the seniors have told the juniors, kuch nahi chahiye, bas nice leke aana. So it might sound very stupid when I say it now, but when you're traveling and you have that, I can only carry 50 kgs and I've got so much stuff to carry, that time that's like a blessing. So you just land up in that place and a lot of things are there for you. So that's where the alumni come in handy and they help you for your, writing your resume, preparing for your internships, referrals in companies, because all these places, all these countries referrals work really, really well. You know, on Amazon, we had one person working, and through references, now we've got so many people working. So all these people, you know, they've gone, the first batches have invented the wheel. Now you need to just, you know, improvise. And it'll be good if you can get connected with them. Us, is it okay if you share your email ID or something and people can connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or I'll send you my email ID as well. I'll just write it on the chat.
Yeah, please do that. So you can always
Yeah.
connect with us. But when you're doing that, please keep in mind that, you know, he's working. There's a time difference between us and him. And I'm sure he'll get back. So just give him a little time. Maybe he's working on some project where some deadlines are to be met. So give him a day or two to get back to you. And if not, then please ping once again. I'm sure he'll answer your questions. That's all from my side.
Yes, ma'am. I think we're at the end of questions as well. We might be good to wrap up.
And in between, if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to Divya or myself. We're there to help you.
It was nice having all of you. Thank you so much for joining the session.
All right. Thank you for having me, guys. And I hope all of you who are aspiring to be somebody in the future, you get what you want. And I'm pretty sure that you deserve all the happiness. And please stay safe through the pandemic. The pandemic is again raging, even here and even there. Just wear your masks and stay safe. All the best.
Thank you so much, Ax, for, you know, being with us on a Saturday morning. We really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.